inside another dimension, face battling barbarians and evil magic on a quest for adventure in a maze of monsters. Once you get into it, you'll never be the same. Hero Quest. Now with 2 new adventure packs, the legend grows.
Hi, welcome back to Not Your Mother's Hobbies. Today we're going to look at another elf, the Elven Archer. This is another of the enemy or monster elves that you can fight in the game. And they're going to use a similar color scheme. But gotta point out, this dynamic firing pose is super cool, and I really dig it. It's very awesome to me. Really makes this one stand out. Let's paint it. So we're going to do the same colors as before, but maybe because the pose is different, a little different application. And one thing I want to show you is on these flatter surfaces, how fast I try to paint and how much contrast I put on my brush. So here, this is no cuts. You can see how fast I try to work on here to get a smoother result, not letting that edge between the painted and unpainted dry too much, and then trying to not go back over as much as I can. And you can see on some of the flat areas, I try to really smooth out some of that pooling and then suck up some of the too much pooling in the shadows. And that's about how fast I try to work when I'm on like a big flat surface like this. Then we go into the Luxian Purple. Another chance for me to use that awesome purple that my mama gave me. My good old mama. Thank you. I love you. But we're going to use this for the tights and the headband again. Just the same as the other paint job. So our application is going to be the same. But I hope that you can see how it is a little bit different in what we're doing. And that it is worth another look. Snakebite leather we're going to use for the wood, as well as our leather spots like the gloves and the boots. We're also going to do the arrow with this because it's going to be all the wooden stuff, right? So that includes the arrow as well. And you can, hopefully you can tell that I'm not being so, not separating, I guess I would say, my blocking in as much as I normally would. So you're going to see how we can kind of go a little faster and looser and still get a similar result. Now, I do prefer, you know, to base my golds, for example, with a flesh shade, the Gulliman flesh, right? But you'll see that you can do just as good with a brown or a darker color or what have you. The Gulliman flesh will give it a nicer kind of rosier, brighter undertone, and it'll make the gold brighter faster with less coats, basically. You'll get a cooler one by painting it over a darker color. But anyway, we're going to go on with Skeleton Horde, because this is a blonde elf based on the artwork. And we're back to business as usual. We're going to do the arrow fletching in this as well. Cleaning up with Wraithbone as usual, just dotting it on, you know, here and there, wherever there's a mistake. I'm not doing a thick coat, not doing too thin. You can sort of like build it up because we do have that zenithal. So if I can mimic it or keep it rather than painting directly over it, that is what I want to do. And then we block in our gold and our flesh. Pop in our Apothecary White for some subtle shadows on this white tunic. That's really going to help deepen that up and give it a nice, cool, shadowed color. Going to help give it some depth real quick. Then we come in with Frostheart and do our outlining, our fine lining. Now, this one, compared to the Warrior, the Archer has more defined grooves for their blue trim. So this one should actually be a little bit easier to identify where that trim's going to go, as well as apply contrast to sit in some grooves. Alright, we're going to start up our layering with the gunmetal, putting that on top of our Basilicanum Gray base. We're going to gunmetal this up. All the steel metal parts, all the stuff we want to be silver, metallics, we're going to do that. That's the bracers, the chainmail, and the arrowhead, I believe. There's not a lot of silver on this this character. Null oil gloss on top, just the bracers and the arrowhead, because that is where we want to be kind of differentiating the two different metals, metallics or what have you. I like to give my chainmail a more, I guess, rough and dirty, grimy look. It helps take it apart from, you know, let's say plate mail. Often you'll have chain mail and plate mail on a miniature, and it helps break it up and give you different points of interest. Now we're putting that gold on. You can see here we didn't do a Reichland base. We played fast and loose with that one to make the painting of the bow brown much easier, and our gold goes on just as nice as it would on a Guilliman flesh undercoat, right? It's just not going to be as bright and rosy off the bat. But that's okay. That's where our Reichland flesh shade gloss comes in. We put that on top, and that'll give it a bit of a rosy tint. It'll still be a little darker on places that you had a darker undercoat, but you know, if you come back on top of this with your Retributor, with your gold, or what have you, you can put another layer on. You can just brighten it up however you feel. If it's a little lacking, go in with another coat, brighten it up, or wait until the extra highlight stage and see how you like it there. We're using Violet 3 and Violet 2 to do some highlights on the purple. And I know, I'll say it again, there are some other purples that would probably be better. One off the top of my head is like Daemonet Hide is more of a violet. But I think this kind of bluey one gives it a little bit of a Technicolor look, which I think looks kind of cool. Now we are going to touch up the cloak here. I'm using Mephiston Red. Because I feel like it was a little blotchy. And we are seeing a lot more of the cloak on these archers than we did on the warriors. So I feel like it's more important to clean that up and maybe add a little more interest. We're not doing the white. It's a very flat surface. So we're using Evil Suns instead, or a different equivalent. Highlighting that blue trim here. We're not going all the way. We're sort of leaving some gaps in between. That's going to give it a look of like catching the light off of folds. Maybe this embroidery is a more satin or shiny thread that's being used. It'll also give it some contrast. It'll make it stand out. Cadian Flesh Shade here for our first fleshy highlight. And I know we're not doing it, we're way past it. I do want to point out that glove, the Archer's glove, that was Basilicanum, and I talked it completely over. But yeah, that little glove, I had a hard time with that. You might have one too, just spotting what was going on. I had a big mold line down it, and I thought it was just a 2-finger glove rather than a 2.5 with a thumb. So do what you will with that, and then highlight up that skin. Alright, Pallid Witch Flesh for our extreme highlight. Getting that glossy kind of anime look. Making our skin very shiny and dynamic. Just take your time on those kinds of parts. It's tiny, it's fiddly. And then some little Caraberg Crimson for some makeup on this female archer. That's how I like to do it. You don't have to, but I feel like it really distinguishes it as a feminine face. And then we do our chrome highlighting on all of the metal, even the Agrax Earthshade Ardcoat shiny chainmail. We can just put some dots on there. You don't have to be precise. I don't always do this on every model. Sometimes I will take more time. But I feel like these kind of figures, hey, they got chunky proportions. You can be loose. You'll get the same idea of the chainmail. You don't have to always be so precise. And I hope I get that point across a lot. You can take shortcuts and still have it look really nice. And we're using Wraithbone for the hair highlights and also the fletching on the arrows. That'll help those stand out as well. Kind of warm them up. Then we have our bold titanium white for our final hair highlight. our kind of comic booky highlight. Really make that hair stand out. And we're also going to use it for the tunic. Now you could leave the tunic as is, but I want my tunic to be really, really bright. I really liked how it came out on the warrior, and I want to give that same effect here. I really want to make that stand out. It is such a, I say color, but it's not a color, but it's such a good contrast of color, just having this really bright mid-piece. 2/3 or 1/3 of this model is white, and it really stands out against these bright colors. Then lastly, we're going to take this tyrant skull, just a yellow-gray kind of color, and we're just going to dry brush onto the bow to make it stand out from the leather gloves. It's just going to add a little bit of a warm highlight to the edges. If you're using a beat-up soft dry brush like this, it's not going to be so sharp-edged, but you do you. Then we do our normal basing, and that's that. All right, there you have it. It is the Elven Archer completed. Really happy with this. Again, the color scheme that they have when paint put to model looks really good. I'm really satisfied with how it came out. I hope you are too. I know that it might be a little bland to see like a lot of these, I guess, elves done the same, but at the same time, I don't know, I really like how it pops. I still feel like there's something to be learned by doing it the same but for different minis, showing how you can do the same thing but different, where you can learn in places, or where you can change it in places, while still using the same base. Here's the male elf variant, looking pretty good. You can do different skin tones. You could do different cloaks to denote the different elves, you know, so that you don't get confused about maybe which one has some hits on them or whatnot, right? Oh, the dark-haired one, or, you know, the green-skinned one. I'm thinking to do, for mine, some kind of different, you know, I say green skin, I mean like a green highlight, almost like a leafy, fleshy thing that I'm going to try and experiment with. I think that'd be fun. Let me know how you're going to do your elves down in the comments down below. Are you going to do different cloaks? Are you going to do different tunics? You're going to make these look like a little Legend of Zelda, some Breath of the Wild blue? What are you guys going to do? How's your Hero Quest journey coming? What are you working on? Like, subscribe, check me out on Twitch for games. I'll see you later. Bye!